showing at Northbrook Court, followed by lunch and debriefing session. This movie is an amazing film discussing current racial issues that sadly affects lives every single day. HPHS has made many other spectacular accomplishments within the past few weeks, but as we reflect on this month, we also look forward to what's in store for the next few months. Student Senate is in the thick of planning for their annual charity drive, which takes place this February. This year's recipient is Rainbows for All Children, which is a nonprofit that helps children and teens grieve and grow after experiencing a loss. The final calendar is currently being constructed, and students are going around HP and other neighboring towns asking for donations for the annual silent auction, which will take place February 8th. So keep your eyes posted for a final draft of the charity drive calendar. We're currently working hard on that, and I cannot believe that we are already halfway through the school year. It really has flown by, and there's still so much more to look forward to. So thank you.
Thank you. The next is the superintendent's report. One thing I want to mention, we were going to have student recognition tonight for a number of students from both high schools, but because of finals week, we're postponing that until January. So we will do student recognition in January. In terms of FOIA activity, on December 17th, we received a request from Deborah Weiss for information about special education procedures. We will respond in a timely manner. On December 10th, we received a request from Deborah Weiss for information regarding special ed programming and spending, special ed settlements, and various job descriptions. We extended the time in which to provide a response, and we will respond in a timely manner. On November 15th, we received a request from Deborah Rady for employee personnel records. We provided a timely response on December 4th. And finally, on November 2nd, we received a request from Scott Drury for materials related to special ed services provided by the district. We provided a timely response on November 20th. The other thing I want to mention in my update is a little update on the intercom system at Deerfield and Highland Park. During the week of November 26th, there were several zones that were identified as being problematic. They were removed from the system. There was discussion about redoing the old wiring for those areas. We decided not to do that, so we decided to go with a fix that Ron Cashbaum recommended, which is using voice over IP, and so we are acquiring speakers that we'll install in those areas. And over break, Security Unlimited will install a card which will allow us to interface that system, and we should be fully operational right after break. And you guys assured me that, right? Don't notice the hesitation there. But
I think that was a statement.
So that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay. We're now going to move to public comments. We welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230, please identify yourself and, if applicable, state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 3 minutes per comment period. We will do our best to address your questions during that relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions or for questions that require additional response time, we will follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. So usually I go in order of who signed in, who said they would like to speak. The first person on the list is Carl Lambrecht. Mr. Lambrecht.
Thank you. You talked about Scott Drury and his request for information. Our state representative, who's retiring, I guess, since he's coming to the end of his point, I had a discussion with him about schools. He pointed out that the state now has a law that schools must teach students how to write cursive. This shocked me. I says, why does the state have to get involved with teaching kids how to write? Well, he says, that's the problem. He identifies it with teaching in this area because that's where his children go. The last time I was here, I had proposed, instead of increasing taxes, reducing taxes. You're competing with other states around us. You're competing with homeschools, which does a superior job without any bureaucracy involved. You have 2 superintendents. You don't even need 1. That happens to be a fact. They're nice people. They're retired. And this is their retirement job. It's pretty nice to get a pension and at the same time get more taxes going out from the state to pay them to come here and teach. I asked a question in the last time I was here, how much the food is costing for these meetings. And I made the comment that the food over here looks like half of it hasn't been eaten. I checked. It seems to be the same case. What is done with the surplus food? I didn't get an answer last time. I'm hoping that somehow this will happen. I don't make FOIAs. FOIAs cost the state money. You hire a lawyer to answer the FOIAs. I don't think that's necessary to hire lawyers for simple questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Letwatt?
Yeah, I'm speaking on the agenda.
Okay, got it. Cody Weiss?
Hello, good evening. My name is Cody Weiss. I am a sophomore at HPHS and participate in the Essentials and Fundamental Learning programs. Those programs fall with the area currently known as special education. The phrase special education is outdated and should be changed. Special ed is a label that does not make anyone feel great. We might learn differently, but it does not make us only special education students. It would be appreciated if the board would consider renaming the program something more in line with the goals of the program, possibly individualized learning program. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Elaine Horwitz.
I actually have 12 copies of this, if you guys could just pass it down. I have 12. My name and my phone number on the bottom, and I neglected to put my email, but it's just my full name, Elaine Horowitz at Gmail. That's all it is. And my apologies to Cody. My apologies to you if I use, because I have a special needs child. Oh, and I have information on a school in Evanston Park School, which is it's got about 60 kids in it, and they're all special needs kids. So I want to make the comment that in this program in Deerfield High School, there are a lot of kids that need let's say the individualized learning programs. But there's a range of children, and there's a range of what the abilities of the children are. I have 7 kids, and my second to last youngest is 14 years old going on 4 months. She cannot speak. She wears diapers. She can barely walk well. She walks like Herman Munster. And there's a range. And unfortunately, because she's been going to Park School for 11 years, even though we were in District 106, Bannockburn District very nicely let her be at Park School. So that was great. For 11 years, she has done fantastically. Unfortunately, there are some problems with how this program is run. Number one, cohorts. I want to make clear that my daughter is not an IEP on a piece of paper. There's a more well-rounded person for my daughter. Just like you, Tiffany, aren't a resume. That's not just what you are. So, for example, at this school, the cohorts are not a match for her at all. They're all high school age, very big kids. They're just not a match. Some of the things they do in class do not pertain to my daughter at all. In another school, like Park School, they have in-house therapists. They do not have in-house therapists here. And so even when another child is being looked at as a therapist in my child's class in Park School, they can also help with my daughter. So there is way more therapists going on. The number of people at Park School that do special ed, every single person in there is involved in special ed. There are no typical kid teachers. So the brainstorming, the idea sharing, way more than you would get at this program. The physical plant is set up, small railings so the kids can hold on to both sides. They can walk around the whole school and have freedom of the whole school. They have a sensory motor room. They have a kitchen. They have a laundry room. They have all this stuff set up for just special needs. Where my kid is a star in that school. There are kids below her ability. There are kids above her ability. Diet. So the last week at Deerfield High School, there's a little program for the kids in.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Horowitz, your time is up. You only get 3 minutes. I'm very
All
sorry.
right. Can I have 10 seconds?
I'm so sorry. We have to follow the 3-minute rule.
Please read the stuff and contact me, please, on this.
Do we have any other citizens' comments? Public comments, sorry. Okay. Seeing as there are none, we are going to move on to the approval of our board minutes. It is recommended that the minutes be approved as listed. Regular meeting November 19th, 2018, and closed session November 19th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion carries. We will now move on to our discussion items.
Yes, the first discussion item is the Deerfield High School Booster Club Digital Scoreboard donation presentation. And so this is simply presented tonight to the board for discussion and consideration, and we'll be coming back at a later date if this becomes reality to accept this donation. So tonight we have the athletic director, Robert Ruiz, and Mr. Litwatt, who is the president of the Deerfield Athletic Booster Group. So guys, it's all yours.
And board members will save all questions until the end.
Thank you. And Ben, one correction, the co-president, right? So my
Your
wife,
co-president, I'm sorry.
my better half is the co. So welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. So I'm in my second year as the co-president. Prior to that, I was the vice president of the Deerfield High School Athletic Booster Club. So for those of you who do not know the goal, well, what we want to do tonight is just to make sure you have a better understanding the details behind this proposed gift of the digital scoreboard to District 113. We'll discuss the benefits. If there's questions on how we're paying for it, timings, next steps, be happy to answer those questions with Robert Ruiz. So the mission of the Booster Club is really to promote athletic success, spirit and sportsmanship, commitment to excellence behind the classroom. A lot of the contributions of funds that we have go to the uniforms, specific equipment, scholarship, leadership training, senior athlete awards, and concussion training. So the benefits of this, and I know that this group has had the opportunity, or at least we shared some of the materials, so I'm not going to go through the materials, and right now I'm just going to give you a high-level overview. So the benefits of the new digital scoreboard really are to provide a revenue-generating vehicle. So all the funds, 100% of the advertising revenue from that digital scoreboard will go directly, as they do today, to the Athletic Booster Club. This will replace approximately 25-year-old obsolete scoreboard that's currently on Adams Field, where there are numerous athletic teams of the 31 that play there. And this is really one of the last big improvements to the Deerfield High School campus. Robert, talk about advertising.
Well, I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about the advertising component, because that's a significant way that we're raising the money to do this. Back in 2012, the district approved the advertising policy, and as did the village, to allow us to do signage on Adams Field. And so starting even from that time, we had some limited advertising, but since then it's picked up a little bit. So we have probably 10 to 12 advertisers that we've had consistently over the last 4 or 5 years. I wanted to share with you just a little bit of what that process looks like when we get someone who wants to advertise with us. First of all, there's usually somebody on the booster club who knows someone else, and once they've agreed to advertise with us, then Larry or whoever it is will contact me and say, hey, here's an advertiser, give them a call. And that's kind of the first checkpoint for us to find out whether or not this is someone that we really want to let advertise on our campus. Okay, so do some checks like, is the logo clean? Are they advertising something that's family friendly? Things like that, and in good taste. At that point, once I agree that that's okay, then I'll send them a contract from the school. That's really a preliminary contract for them to sign, and then they get to designate exactly what it is that they're going to purchase. Once they send that back, then I send it back to Ali, and Ali's the second check of whether or not we're going to let this go or not. And like I said, I think we're both pretty conservative, and to this point, we haven't had anyone that we've said, yeah, I don't think so. And I think part of that is because our booster club, they're reaching out to people that we think are worthy of putting out in front of our kids and our families. Again, we've been following the same structure over the last 5 or 6 years. The only thing that may change moving forward is just the addition of the digital scoreboard versus a static sign out on Adams Field.
So, so you have a little background on some of on our mission, on the benefits, on advertising. So, how are we going to pay for this? So, the main drivers of revenue or income for the booster is membership, is advertising, as Robert mentioned, and Warrior Wear, which is really the fun gear, the red and gray that you see in our high school. 3 drivers of that. We working on increasing our advertising revenue enough so that we will have funds to pay for it. Also, we're looking at some of other ways that we will reduce some spending. So we've already estimated based on pledges how we're going to pay for this over the next 5 years, which is really what the plan is. We already communicated our strategy to the Deerfield High School Athletic Booster Club Committee, and we had a unanimous, I believe it was unanimous, approval to move forward with it, so we can be here today to have the initial conversation. We have a local bank. I think it's important to understand we have a local bank already who has given us a proposal that is going to underwrite or support this loan that we're looking to use to pay for the digital scoreboard. So we're really excited that the local bank really believes in us. It's all about community, right? Giving back to the kids, to the student athlete. So we have that support as well, and we're looking forward to working with them hopefully in the future. So at a high level, we just wanted to share some of those few things with you, give you the background, and do you have anything to add? And I guess if there are any questions, we'd be happy to. Ms. Hyman, yes.
That's okay. That's okay. Oh, did you have a? No, I just was gonna go around. But if you go around. I'm gonna go around starting this way this time. Ken, do you have any questions?
No, my question I already gave to Ben, and he got me the answer this afternoon, so I'm good.
Okay. Elena,
And Ken's question
Go ahead.
was on maintenance of the scoreboard, and so there is a 10-year warranty on parts and labor for the scoreboard. And after 10 years, we would, maintain it as we do our other scoreboards. And it would be a district.
Then it becomes the district's, as we do with other things, and then after 10 years, it's the district's maintenance responsibility.
But there wouldn't be anything for the first 10 years.
Elena, do you have any questions?
No questions, just congratulations on seeing this through and planning it as well as you did. So thank you very much. I think it's going to be a great improvement for Adams.
Thank you. It's been a team effort. Really appreciate it. It's been a collaboration with not only the interim superintendents, Ms. Anderson, Ali, John, and of course Robert. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stacy?
So I had a few questions that I also said, and maintenance was one of mine, but so I have no idea. Does it cost more to maintain a large electronic scoreboard than it would?
Well,
I mean,
Well, actually, because our scoreboard is the age that it is, it actually costs more to operate that than it does a digital scoreboard. That's the answer I got.
I really know. Is that right?
Right.
How close, because it looked like the numbers you sent were not quite there yet. are you anticipating? At what time do you think you might have full funding? And
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, Miss? Oh, Stacy. Stacy, all right, thank you. So again, we're getting close. We have, as I mentioned, we have some pledges. We have businesses within the area that are very interested. We have others that are still irons in the fire, so to speak. So we are continuing to pound the pavement. There's about 4 of us on the subcommittee of the Booster Club. And what's important to understand here is by getting the approval to move forward or the district to align to this, it allows Robert Ruiz in his capacity as the AD to go out and really make those calls. He really can't make those calls in his official capacity because we don't have proper approvals. So this is why it's so important for us to move forward so we can really, go hit the ground in 19 with calling his contacts. But to answer your question, myself, Mike Danielwich, Jeff Schwartz, Amy Merzi, and a few others on the committee are reaching out in our Rolodex, calling people, knocking on doors in the neighborhood, and trying to get some additional revenue. And we actually have a lot of things going on right now. It just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we intend to close that gap. Did I answer your question?
kind
Okay.
When you were talking about either you or it was
Mr. Reese?
you or
Robert.
mentioned that there was an approval with the advertisers, and then you approve of it, and then Ali has his next approval, and it has been working over the last few years that he hasn't turned away because of your level of approval. Do you know what is part of his approval? And I'm going to tell you why I'm asking. Because probably 4 years ago, 4 years ago was the culmination of 2 years of work of a policy which brought together advertising, naming, what have you, and pardon me? Donations, naming, et cetera, and we put it all into one, right. Put it all into one policy, and I was just curious if you know. If you don't, that's okay. But I was wondering if that's part of Ali's. If he looks at that and runs that as part of his approval. If the approval, his approval has that as part of it. Looking at our policy, our district policy, as far as advertising and.
Well, I can't speak directly to exactly what Ali is checking
okay.
for, but I can tell you things of, conflict of interest and things like that are some things that I would expect that he's looking for as well. In my short time with Ali, like I said, it's been a 7 to 10 day process. And really, if he has any questions, he'll call and say, who are these people and what are they? Just looking for some clarification. So at least it's been that kind of interaction.
It would be, as one of 7 of us, and one of the people that worked on that policy for the 2 years, it would be important, at least from this board member's perspective and possibly from a couple of others, that just a glance at that document, because, and especially with Adams Field being on Waukegan Road, there were some of those issues that we kind of considered when we did some of the wording of some of the advertising. Actually, I think it was there was a possible advertising situation that was maybe discussed as an example when we were discussing that part of the policy. So just a glance at it, just to make sure that everything's in line. I'm not suggesting that there is nothing that's at issue. I just want to make sure that things are in line. That's all. Thanks.
If I can add, Ms. Simon,
Sure.
that's a great point.
Debbie,
Yeah,
it's fine.
I'm Debbie. I assume you're referring to the 825 policy.
Yes.
So we do follow this policy. We've been following it as far as, Robert mentioned, for the years. And it's important that this board knows this is the district contract written by district attorneys.
Okay.
We're following procedure.
Thank you.
What? Contract Sorry, go ahead. It's Gail's turn.
Just wondering about the plan if you don't get enough advertising pledges, or, revenue coming in to cover what you intend to pay each year towards paying off the loan.
Do you want to take this one? Okay. Thanks, Gail. So the goal is to raise as much money to target a fall of 2019. Shovel in the ground before that, up and running by that time. If we find that we cannot raise the necessary funds, then we hold off. We're going to be fiscally responsible in how we do this. We're going to continue our obligations to our student athletes at the Booster Club, or at the high school rather. So if right now we have a conservative estimate on the length and the amount we're going to pay, and we feel comfortable with that right now. As we, and I say as we because I'm pretty confident we will, secure more advertising contracts and letters of intents or pledges, at that point in time, we will then bring it back to our athletic booster club and say, hey, we came to you back in October, we're coming to you now in February or March or what have you. This is what we have right now, and we would bring it back to them. So to answer your question, if we don't have enough, we delay till we do have enough.
So if you go ahead with the project and then some of the pledges fall through, does the district then have any responsibility or none?
So,
Okay.
Great question. So this is 100%, the scoreboard is 100% funded by the Deerfield Athletic Booster Club, which, like the District 113, is a 501c3 nonprofit. And that's how it's underwritten by the bank.
One last question
Feel free.
that I just noticed. So it says that you plan to continue to provide discretionary spending dollars for about $25,000 per year for the next 3 years to the athletic department, and prior 3-year average was $50,000. So the athletics, all the teams, everyone's in good shape. They're not going to be.
They will be clothed. They will have helmets for sports that need it. So we currently, one of the strategies is to reduce our discretionary spending, which is money that goes back to, is revenue that goes back to the coaches, the teams. So Robert will tell you that he has talked to the coaches, just like he's socialized this with Miss Anderson and the assistant principal. And we have numbers of what the needs are over the next 3 to 5 years for all the teams. So we're confident with with the changes that we're making, we will not renege on our obligations to our student athlete. We'll provide them the needs that the coaches bring to Robert Ruiz, which is then brought to the Booster Club. That is the process of how we approve funding for the sports teams.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Gail.
I didn't have any questions, but thank you for the presentation and all the time that's gone into the process of making this happen. It's kind of fun, exciting.
I don't know if I'm showing it, but very passionate. We are very, a little nervous here.
We could have a little more excitement, but no.
Robert will tell you that this is extremely exciting for us to be in a position, even today, to be in front of you with this opportunity. So thank you. It's very exciting.
Okay, I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think you thought you were finished on this high note. So back to the loan. So if the scoreboard goes up and you guys feel like you're in a good spot, you get the scoreboard up, and then a couple of years in, maybe you don't have the money, the booster club, whatever, or some of the advertisers pull out, what happens? I understand if you're saying the district isn't responsible, but then what happens?
So,
Then, is somebody guaranteeing the loan? What's going on? What happens?
So Robert or I, somebody has to sign it, so one of us would sign it.
Looks like it's you, Larry.
Wait, so you're personally going to guarantee the loan?
No, we're not personally guaranteeing it, no.
Okay.
No, they understand, this local bank understands we're a nonprofit, so they understand the situation. There's not a concern from the bank. There's not a concern of default. Obviously, we've had these conversations with the bank. They've reviewed our 7-year P&Ls. We've demonstrated to them some of the strategy and how we're going to pay for this. So we are confident. One of the reasons why we're waiting is we want to make sure we have the right revenue stream coming in. And we still have other ways we have other levers to pull if something were to occur. But
What does that mean exactly?
meaning we could reduce some of our other spending within the Booster Club.
So other teams who, you would have to basically take money away that you normally would give to other teams just to focus on the scoreboard?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Not at all.
Okay, can you clarify?
So we could, instead of spending 25, we might spend 15. So that's an example. We might raise membership dues. We might raise WarriorWare costs. We might reduce some of our advertising expense. We might reduce some of our membership expense. We might partner more with Graphics, who's one of our sponsors, who does a lot of our printing. We've talked about a lot of these different scenarios as a group, and as also with in certain meetings with Ben and Linda, John, and Ms. Anderson.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then getting back to the policy, so I'm a little bit confused when you said that district attorneys have written contracts. What did you mean by that?
It's my understanding that the contract that we are sharing, that our businesses sign, is written by District 113, and it's approved by the District 113 office.
No.
Actually, we have a copy of that for you, and essentially what it is a list of the items that have been approved to be able to put the advertising on, right? And so essentially it just lists who the sponsor is or the advertiser is, the length of the term, and whether they want to be on Adams Field or they want to be on the softball field or they want to be in the pool, wherever it is that they want to be, and then obviously the location for them to sign as well as for Ali to sign as well. And that was, it went back and forth between the Booster Club and this group and the District 113 attorneys to make sure all the language was appropriate.
Can I?
We'll have to
We'll have to take a look.
take a look at the. I don't.
If I can just follow up to Lizzie's.
Wait, hold on one second, Ken. So beyond this, which I don't, maybe this is your answer to my question, but I guess, are you, when you were answering Debbie, were you trying to say that you are confident that you believe that the scoreboard and everything, the activities that will be associated with the scoreboard, the advertising activities are in compliance? You've independently determined that your entity, because your entity is separate from our entity, right? It has to be that way legally. So you're confident that you are complying with our requirements of our policy.
So if your question, Elizabeth, is are we in compliance to the district advertising policy, is that your question?
Yeah, because we'll probably ask our attorneys to independently verify that, but I'm just curious because that was something that we had asked if
Right.
you to.
Right. So again, it's our understanding, and we have been we currently have advertising today at the high school. If you walk in the athletic wing, you'll see advertising of Buffalo Wild Wings, Ravinia Plumbing, North Shore, current advertisers that we have a contract with. They signed the contract, I handed out, and then Robert explained that process. That's been going on 5, 7, 8, however many years. Nothing's changing. So I want to be clear. Nothing's changing that how we advertise. We're proposing a new digital scoreboard in the same policy that we advertise within the school is just be advertising outside as well. So if there's my thought is if there's a question on are we following the advertising policy, I think that's almost a separate, important conversation we should have. But we're not changing anything how we do business. We're basically running our business the same way yesterday, today, and how we plan to do it tomorrow with this digital scoreboard.
I think the question is you're adding new advertisers.
Oh, absolutely.
And new companies, and so I think that was the question. I don't think any of us had seen this agreement before or have looked at it carefully, but that to make sure it's consistent with the policy in terms of what we can allow to have advertised. So I think it's a good question of what with these new companies, how are we monitoring what content they put in their advertisement, and making
Okay.
sure that it's consistent.
I heard a few questions, so thank you for pointing that out. So, yes, we are going to be increasing our advertising in terms of securing more businesses. Robert approves, when, I think as he mentioned, he'll get logos and things like that for these prospective businesses, or once they sign the contract, and he will review the information, work with that business, and that will be posted to the 55-inch screen TVs you see in the athletic wing. So, Robert, so that is the process that we followed today. That would be the process we follow tomorrow. Did I answer your question, Elizabeth?
Sort of. I think we're going to have to follow up with our attorneys on some of this because I'm not sure all the kind of dots are being connected.
Whatever we can do to work with it, we'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, that's okay. Also, from an insurance perspective, how's that being handled? I mean, if something happens to the scoreboard or if there's some type of, God forbid, injury resulting from the scoreboard, who's responsible?
I mean, it's just general insurance, that the district has, right? So we're gifting it to the district. So might be more of a John question, maybe, but it's on school property. So if something were to happen to the existing scoreboard, I would imagine the same process and conditions would apply to the new scoreboard.
Have you looked into kind of what additional insurance that, we might incur because of the scoreboard, because of what type of scoreboard it is?
I don't have that information in front of me, but that's something we can get back to you on.
Yeah,
and work with John.
that could be a significant cost to us that we would need to know.
Well, I don't know if it's a significant cost or not, so I can't answer that.
That's just something we'd need to know.
Go
ahead, Ken.
Yeah, so to follow up with Lizzie's, actually, one of the other questions I asked Ben this morning was the loan. And to be clear, I've got a fair amount of institutional memory about Booster Club projects with the schools, and they're fabulous, and it's all good stuff, but I've got some institutional memory. So the loan, just to clarify, the loan is with the Booster Club. There is no cosign, there is no linkage to District 113. This is a loan that it goes to Booster Club because you're a separate 501c3, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So you're taking out the loan and then making the gift to us,
That's correct.
and the bank is okay with this?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
That's why we're excited. They believe in us, and we're excited to partner with them.
Wow.
And we can get information about if there's any additional insurance costs to insure this sign and get back to you.
So the action that at some point, when you've decided whether or not you're going forward, is to ask the board to accept the gift.
Right.
That would be what you're asking the board to do.
Correct. We'll follow proper protocols to come back to the district, right? So right now, it's premature. We are going down the path of we're working right now. Robert and John are working with the Planning Commission, and we have, I think, in a few weeks, we'll be talking to them. So we're going down that process.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions I can answer, or Robert? Really appreciate your time. Thank you for your engagement. Any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Ali must be watching online because he just emailed me and said he just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that he would be following the procedures in the advertisement policy and that he will follow best practice.
Ali is in Pakistan, just so everybody knows he is watching and commenting from Pakistan. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Ali. Go have breakfast.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, he sent 3 text messages.
Oh, yes. All right, the second item for presentation tonight and discussion is these 2019 summer capital projects. And I will tell you that a week ago, we had a Finance Committee meeting where Gail and Ken were present, and the majority of discussion at that meeting was the capital projects. And I'm going to just briefly present this tonight. I'm not going to read off the PowerPoint because you can, and it's a very short PowerPoint. And interestingly, Lynn and I were talking this afternoon. You know, we come from the world where when we work with the board, we give them a memo. But it seems like here we do a lot of PowerPoints, and so. But anyway, you know, the long-term master facility plan pre-referendum, Perkins and Will gathered feedback from people, and the board accepted this master plan back in December of 2012. And there were priority projects based on that plan and based on discussion, and some of that was done in, as a result of the referenda. And then there's a slide that shows, are you putting this up? No? So I'm on the third slide already. Bingo, right there. All right. These projects were suggested by the Oversight Committee if there were unused referenda funds. And as you can see in that last column where it says comments, some of the projects have been done, some are going to be done in 2019, some were ruled out, some are to be considered for future work. So the question of are we sticking to the master facility plan, the answer is yes and no. To a certain degree we are, but as any good plan, you should revisit it periodically, and so we've been doing that. And there was a lot of discussion last year and again this year with building staff and with John as to what should be the projects we focus on for the summer of 2019. Another thing that Ken and Gail brought up in our discussion is, you know, the district had a 10-year life safety survey recently, and so are there items on that survey that were suggested needed to be done? Because if they were suggested that they needed to be done and we hadn't done them yet, maybe we ought to be doing those before we do some of these other summer projects. Well, the answer to that is yes, the critical life safety items were completed. So there aren't any hanging out there that we need to address. So here are the summer projects we're proposing. Number one, the Highland Park High School cafeteria commons, kitchen, ventilation, and coffee bar. The projected cost for that is $7.4 million. The Highland Park PE, the athletic offices renovation at $500,000. The PE corridor flooring at $56,000. And then the Deerfield High School stormline, track, tennis court, and baseball backstop screening for $1.05 million. And I will tell you that in talking to Perkins and Will, the PE offices, for example, have been on the list for a long time. These current facilities were designed in 1958 and are largely unchanged and really don't serve the purpose. And so they really need to be done. The track surface at Deerfield High School is beyond its useful life and needs resurfacing. Stormline replacement, this addresses the flooding issues at the baseball stadium due to the proximity to the wetlands and needs to be done. The west tennis court replacement, this addresses the remaining tennis courts on the west side of the campus. And the replacement of the backstops, they've outlived their useful lives. And again, the main item here is the cafeteria. And it's long overdue. It's undersized, and it's old, and it just doesn't work very well. So we're looking at capital projects somewhere in the neighborhood of about $9 million for this summer. $5 million will come from the capital projects budget of FY20. 2.5, or actually $1 million, will come from leftover referenda funds. We had $2.5 million left over. We've already committed $1.5 to do the windows at prior board meeting. And then we have $3 million from the district reserves. Is FY18 finished a lot better than we thought it would, and this will be a one-time, non-occurring cost. And I will tell you that going forth, you're not going to have $9 million every year to do capital projects. You'll be lucky to have the $5 that you have been budgeting, and you may not have that. But these are the projects that we're recommending. And Perkins and Will have indicated that we really should revisit these each year, and so we will be coming to you in the spring to discuss FY20 potential projects. We'll come back in January to get your approval to do these projects, but I will also tell you that at that board meeting, I would like the board to also consider accepting bids to do these projects, especially at the cafeteria and the athletic offices, because if we don't and delay it, that'll just muck things up. The other thing I want to mention is we may have to look at alternative plans for lunch service this spring, because they're going to have to start on this project before the end of school. There just is not enough time over the summer to do this. And so we've had a little bit of discussion with Debbie about what that might look like, and I don't have an answer for you right now.
She's a good cook, isn't she?
Yes, she is. But it's either that or open up the school year without a cafeteria. And so maybe we can look at alternative plans going forth. But I wanted to bring that out, and this is something I stated when I first came here. I think in the first week I met with John and Ali, and I said, you really think you can pull this off in the 3 months over the summer? I said, this is really an ambitious project, so there really needs to be some discussion and thought as to either starting early and then working over the summer, or rolling the dice and starting at the beginning of summer and then maybe not having it open on time. So,
and having been involved in rebuilding 2 large high school cafeterias, there's no way it could be done in just the summer. There's just no way. And so and I think the best plan is to find some ways to close at least part of the cafeteria and kitchen this spring for a couple of months, and then have a period of 4 or 5 months, probably 5 months.
So we do have representatives here from Perkins and Will and Gilbane. So if board members have questions about this, and I know Stacy and I talked this morning, and I know she's going to pose a question, and I encouraged her to ask that question.
Let's start with Stacy. I actually have a couple of questions. So first of all, in January, when the district comes back to us, at that time, are they going to have the buildings have gone through their master lists again and updating the facilities software that we did to look at the new priorities? So John's shaking his head no.
No, the January meeting would be just about these projects.
Oh, these
and what-
projects, okay.
For 2019.
Okay. But the next time, when we're looking at the future, we're going to look at the
Yeah, that
facility
would
software in combination with
Correct.
building priorities.
That would
Okay.
probably be in February or March.
Right, okay, thank you. Yeah, and then my specific question was $7.4 million. Wow, that is a lot more than I thought it would be. And I spent a lot of time on those referendum meetings. So can you explain why? I mean, I thought maybe 5.
Stacy had the same question I did, and that was, the memo you sent in early August indicated a cost estimate of $5.6 million for the expansion and the remake, and now it's ballooned up to 7.6. So when she asked me to explain that, I really couldn't, so I said, ask it tonight.
Sure. Thank you. Michael Dolfer with Perkins and Will. Thanks for having me tonight. Great to be here talking to you about these projects. Very exciting times for these projects in the district. The short answer for the increase in the budget for the project really stems from an increase of scope that was made possible by additional funds that were brought to the table for the project. So originally we were very conservative on how we were approaching the project, using that $5 million roughly budget for the overall project. We knew that we had to stay within the limits of the existing building footprint and be very judicious about how we were using the space, how we were moving around utilities within the building. Additional funds were brought in the early spring to that project to identify, along with some ideas that had come out of the school to provide some additional space within the building. So we're expanding the footprint of the cafeteria to gain some additional space in there because we have some overcrowding issues within the cafeteria. And we've also looked at, and by doing that as well, we've moved the main kitchen and servery lines fully to the south of the cafeteria. From right now, if you remember the space, they're positioned directly in the middle. So they bifurcate the seating areas into that common zone and the main seating cafeteria to the north there. So the additional funds allowed us to move that fully south because of the impact of the utilities that are made by moving that, as well as putting the addition onto the cafeteria. Small trapezoidal area that's taken out of the plant that used to be right next to the athletic entrance right there. That used to be a cafetorium back when it was originally constructed in 1958. And we can fill that in, redo how the entryway works over there, since a lot of the main traffic flow is coming in the new pool entrance. There we're able to rededicate that space to the cafeteria seating area. So those are the major cost impacts that we saw that put that number higher than was originally anticipated.
So now I'm going to ask my question back to I don't know who, because just because we have funds certainly doesn't mean we should spend them. Mr. Lambert isn't here, but I'm probably happy to hear that. So that's really concerning to me. What I would want to hear is that we had a great need, and we were working to try to address the need as best we could, given the funds we had. But we knew that we were sub-optimizing, and now this is the more ideal. And so I'm looking at our staff to help me understand, especially because there may be overcrowding, but the projections for the district are reducing students we're expecting in the next few years. So I don't want to build this beautiful, great cafeteria that is just kind of nice to have. So I don't even know who I should be looking at.
I was confused too when you said additional funds were brought to you that allowed you to.
From whom?
Yeah, my question.
Yeah,
is exactly that from
so
who?
if I'm being a little sloppy with my words, I apologize. But yeah, I think the key thing is here, as we went through the initial design process for the cafeteria, there was that need that was identified by the district, but we were very clear that we couldn't rectify that need for additional seating space within the footprint that you had because the funds wouldn't allow us to do it. We really needed to remain within the footprint that we had and within the utility lines that we had in order for us to meet that budget. So there was ideas that were brought to the table both from the school side and from the design side on ways that we could gain additional space, but that had a cost impact on the project. So that was when there was identified by the district administration that there was some additional funds that could be allocated to capital projects for that year, and that allowed us to go to have some more efficiency on the plan and to go for the building expansion as well.
So, so I think Stacy raises a good point. A recommendation would be when you come back with this bid, a thought, I don't know what anybody else thinks, is you lay out options A, B, and C and say, this was our original plan at this cost, this is what you were going to get. Ideal plan is B, and it provides you all the things you just talked about. It's kind of hard to visualize it without a written document, but I get it, that there will be better things that we will get at more money, and that we look at options A and B, or A, B, and C, and look at it that way, rather than just backing into it with the given extra dollars. It's just a recommendation of the way we should approach it.
I think that's a great idea.
Any other questions? I mean, I raised these similar questions, and one of the concerns I raised to both John and Ali was it's kind of like you're going to remodel your house, and you tell your wife you have X number of dollars to do the remodeling, and then all of a sudden I win the lottery, and now I've got more money to remodel my house. And so if I was going to do this over again, I would have done it differently.
Right. It just, as we all say over and over again, we've got, lots and lots of, there's wants and there's needs, and we've got two schools that we constantly have to maintain, but we've got, we also have staff, and, we have administrators, and we have salaries to pay, and we have, buildings to maintain, and we've got children to educate, and so we have to keep all these things in mind. So I don't know where you found $2 million. That's really kind of magical, to be honest with you, but
well, I'll say that we work within budgets and scopes that we're given.
yeah, no, I know, right, I know.
We don't make up scope, we don't make up budgets.
Right, so if it would probably be a good idea, as Ken raised, for us to have sort of some options, kind of like Dr. Martindale said, when you go to remodel and they say, well, you could do it this way, you can have the moldings. I was never very good at that kind of stuff, to be honest. You know, yeah, you could have these kind of moldings, or you don't have to have any moldings, and I don't know the difference between the two, so you could tell me that one costs more than the other, and I wouldn't know. So, yeah.
Well, I think the original anticipated revenue to do capital projects for 2019 included the $5 million budgeted for capital projects, along with the $1 million of leftover referenda funds for a total of $6 million. And then somewhere there was a discussion about taking $3 million for a one-time out of reserves to get up to $9 million. So I think that's where this extra money came from.
If it's a need, if the conditions of the cafeteria or these other, if it's a need, it's a need, you know. But
well, and I do think all of these items are in need.
Yeah.
They really are, and some of them long overdue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is a need at Highland Park High School, I guess.
Well,
so
right,
your
we agree
idea
it's a
is
need, the
couple
cafeteria, but is
two
it
options,
right?
So is the need warranting the extra space, or how? But clearly,
How
the
not a matter of
improvement
if, but
has to be
how.
done. We just have to figure out
How?
How to do it cost effectively.
Debbie.
Honestly, I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify what I'm hearing, and maybe for the benefit of everybody here. But what I'm hearing here is that they did not make that determination.
Right.
They were
Yeah, I
given
get
that
that.
direction.
Yes.
From
Of
the
course.
direction
Yes.
they were given, they did not decide that we needed more space and we wanted to spend more money. So our service providers were given a task based on our direction. So they got it from somewhere, they didn't make it up. So maybe we're now saying maybe we don't need that extra space, but if we needed the space, then based on that, they came up with this plan. If we now, am I correct, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, so now, if we want 3 plans, 3 options, then maybe that's what we're asking? Yeah?
Or I would ask the administration to go
Or-
back and determine what
maybe
if they
determine
want,
where
if
that-
they think they have 2 or there's something in
If we're
between
gonna
or
start
not.
over, this probably won't get done this summer.
No,
Yeah.
it won't.
And with design. And this is unfortunate that Ali is not here. He's desperately texting us here.
Oh, we're sorry, Ali.
He said the additional funds were not for cafeteria only, to accelerate more capital projects. I think we're hoping to get more done. But the cost of the cafeteria did increase from 5.6 to
Yes.
7 point.
There was an incremental increase, and it's a functional
Can you
increase.
describe a little bit more about where the increases came? Was it a larger kitchen? Was it more seating space?
It was more seating space, so there is an increase in the footprint, and as well as creating more efficient seating space by moving the kitchen space from the center of the cafeteria down to the south of it. So by doing that, that means we're moving a lot of services within the building away from their original location. So there's a significant cost impact by doing that.
How much additional seating space are we talking about?
The numbers.
Well, you gave up that podium.
I'm Justin Heggie with Perkins & Will. I believe the old numbers, we were about 420 students, and pending on there is a banquet option, but we would be around 550. And I think when we did the studies, there's 4 lunch periods, and 2 of the lunch periods have well over 500 kids, which creates the issue right now where students are lined all up and down the hallway sitting on benches. So we were asked to come up with an option of what's your highest demand period and accommodate the seating to that.
So Debbie, I don't know if you have anything to comment.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I'm coming late to the game because I wasn't in the planning phases of this last year, but I've been in a lot of good conversations, and I think we talk about more space. There's a couple other needs, not just sitting down to eat lunch. One, we don't have any large meeting spaces other than A217 right now at Highland Park High School. That's problematic for a lot of reasons, not just for students, but also for staff, that we don't have a place. And while I love the new design of the new cafeteria, the Commons right now is a place we were able to close off a little bit to use. We will not have that anymore. It's one big, large space, which I happen to love. But the reasons behind a lot of the designs were really to address other issues, like
equity issues and kind of getting all our kids to be in a room and not having dividers between them. We've also made them a little crazy recently, but redesigning some of the spaces so that we can address student activities office and have that present in our cafeteria and be right with our kids, which is a kid center area. To have our equity office also located right there in the cafeteria to address those equity issues and be in the same vicinity with our students. And we think that's critical. It's not just about the space, but it's about meeting students' needs and where we are and what a lot of our initiatives are, as both as a school and as a district. And so, literally, I think I've made some of the people in this room a little crazy recently, really trying to redesign just some of that office space so that we can have a presence for our students and have a space where we can pull kids in and say, hey, let's talk about what's going on, or have a place where they can work together. And so I personally really love the design and that it does open it up. And it addresses so many of the things that we're trying to improve, particularly in our cafeteria situation at Highland Park High School.
I think that's very helpful.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you.
Other
thank
questions?
In the past, you've always given us some models and sketches that would really help us to visualize. And just as Mrs. Finn just eloquently related, the real issue has always been that separation of a physical space that creates other issues that is just not part of our mission. So that needs to be job one. But I think there are other ways that once job one is accomplished, that we can discuss the other pieces. But I think for us to be talking about it without something concrete to look at makes it very difficult for me to visualize.
Sure, I understand that. And, if we could certainly present something here. I don't want to take up too much time on this, and we can always come back to you with the next time, or with a memo in between now and the next board meeting as well, that outlines what that all looks like.
Excellent. A memo
That would be
and
very
some
helpful.
A memo and some drawings would be helpful that I
Absolutely.
could share with the board.
Very good.
And I will say, the idea of this being a common space is really important. And that's something that really resonated with all of the teachers and the students that we talked to, from the sake of not having a real space that is a student-centered space in a building now, and that's what we're hoping to make here. So, looking forward to keep on talking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
we'll-
you.
just in summary, we'll provide the board with drawings and a memo from them, but we will come back to you in January and ask you to accept our recommendation to do these capital projects for this summer of 2019. And we will also have bids for the cafeteria and the athletic offices to approve. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the referendum funds?
Mm-hmm.
So the unused referendum funds, are those unrestricted? Can they?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's not actual referendum money. That was spent a long time ago. It's part of that commitment that the district made for that, was it 25 million?
Yes.
To go toward the project. That hasn't all been spent. So it's
For the leftover funds, right?
but
Yeah,
it's
but-
left over from what the district designated to be
Okay.
spent.
Right, it was
And
100.
it was $2.5 million.
Right.
1.5 you've already committed to Windows.
It's just the way it was written.
Yeah,
It makes it sound like it's left
shouldn't
over
say
from the
referendum.
Right.
It shouldn't say referendum. You're right.
It was the district's fund balance commitment towards the project.
Okay.
Right.
It's just the
Toward
way
the
it's written.
Yeah, it's
here.
written,
Right.
it's written as referendum, correct.
Good clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. That concludes the discussion items.
Thank God. Okay. Okay, we'll now move to our action items. The first one is the Highland Park High School international trip to Italy. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Highland Park High School international field trip to Italy from June 11, 2019 to June 21, 2019. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing as there's no discussion, a roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Next one is the fiscal year 2020 student summer school fees and tuition. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve Fiscal year 20 student summer school fees and tuition as presented. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to thank Ali since he's so closely paying attention. I was not present at the last meeting, but I did watch the video, and he answered the questions I had regarding some of the fees, so I appreciate that.
Like the parking?
About the parking. I get asked often about the parking.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing as there is no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Colbert?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Welby?
Aye.
Ms. Golowski?
Aye, motion carries. Next is the additions to the 2019-2020 program of studies. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the additions to the 2019-2020 program of studies for Deerfield High School and Highland Park High School. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Ali, I think we have to put you on Do Not Disturb now. Seeing as there is no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Colbert?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Welby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Golowski?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next one is the Director of Business Services contract amendment. It is recommended that the board approve the contract amendment for Whitney Draker, Director of Business Services, effective on December 17th, 2018, as presented. Really quickly, this is just a modification to her contract to, but there is no change in salary. Right, it's just a modification for, hold on a second.
TRS.
Yeah, for TRS. I wanted to make sure I could say that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing as there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Colbert? Aye. Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Welby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Golowski?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we now have some policies. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt policies 6-135, Accelerated Placement Program, and 8-55, Community Interaction with District Staff, as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Anyone? No?
Well, actually, we discussed it last meeting, but for the community interaction with district staff, we had a discussion that while there might not be really things we can do to ensure implementation, we wanted to strongly send a message to all of our staff and community members that there's a certain way we're supposed to be working with each other, and so share that. So I'm happy to be part of passing this policy.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
also, from watching the video, I thought that was a really good discussion about that policy.
Excellent. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing as there is no further discussion, roll call, please.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Welby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Colbert? Aye. Ms. Golowski?
Aye. Motion carries. We will now move on to the consent agenda. It is recommended that the consent agenda be approved as listed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And Mr. Fishbane will provide us a report on the bills. Is there any, excuse me, go ahead, Mr. Fishbane.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, it got me an opportunity to meet with Whitney, our Director of Business Services. So we went through the bills and went through the paperwork to make sure there was appropriate sign-off matching up to the purchase and the approval. I also picked a couple items that are software related, and I was interested. It was interesting to learn that we subscribe to some software that prevents hacking and security and things. So there's a lot of expense there, but it's well worth it. So thank you for the learning experience, and it was all in order.
Excellent. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing as there is no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Aye.
Ms. Welby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Colbert? Aye. Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Golowski?
Aye. Motion carries. If we are now come to our next public comment section. Are there any other public comments? Yes?
Horwitz again. I'd like to just switch gears from scoreboards and cafeterias and just say that, like, I just want everybody to focus that this is a human being and somebody I care deeply about. And my biggest point is, just because a program can meet IEP goals or feels they can meet IEP goals does not mean that the program is appropriate for that child. And that goes for any child that, like, happens to wander into District 113. There are intangibles. There are many things that are important here. So when my daughter was about to turn 3, I visited with her 3 NSSED programs. They were absolutely a mismatch. I mean, ridiculously mismatched. And what I was told by NSSED is, we can service your daughter here, no problem. And that statement, we can service your daughter, I feel like my daughter's a car is going in a gas station. So I approached District 106. They very kindly said, no problem. You visited Park School. You think it's the best place for your daughter. Fine, your daughter's going there. That's the last problem I've had for 11 years. Now I've got an issue. So my daughter is so successful right now where she has been that I hate to mess with it. And there are disadvantages to this program. But because I mentioned a few already, the physical plant, the fact that there are many, she's surrounded by special ed teachers and aides, and everybody is into special ed. It is not like this is a typical high school, and the main focus here are typical kids, just are. And so I want my daughter to be surrounded in a community, in a family, you know, in a village where she is just surrounded with every single thing she needs, and that's what she's been getting. The cohort here, compared to Park, is not a match. The physical plant is not appropriate for her. And I just happened to see this yesterday. This is the weekly schedule for the ELS classroom. And tomorrow would be practice ordering. I believe that means ordering off a menu. My daughter is nonverbal. That will not fly. Lunch at Michael's, my daughter only eats pureed and ground up food, so I don't know what you do with the salad on that, unless they want to blenderize it. There's yoga and meditation on Wednesday. There's recipe reviews. This is all completely inappropriate for my daughter. And the last thing I'll say about the difference between Park School and District 113 is whenever I feel the need to communicate with Park School, they are there. And I rarely do communicate with them because I've had 11 years of knowing them. They are fantastic. When I need to communicate with somebody in this school, there almost isn't any. So I feel very uncomfortable having my child or anybody's child in a program who is nonverbal, and my child can't come back home and say, this is what we did in school today. She can't speak to me. So this is what I need to be comfortable for my daughter. I need communication, and I'm getting into Park School. I would beg you guys, please read the stuff I made up. Please contact me. My email again, ElaineHorwitz@gmail.com. Please, I will bring Audrey to school to show you what she looks like. She's a little peanut. I mean, that's all she is. And she needs to be where she needs to be, which is a Park School. And I really appreciate your time and your listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. We have any future agenda items that anybody wants to bring up? Michelle?
Well, you kind of mentioned that there'd be some sort of assessment on the finals moving and sort of what that looked like and how the process was. And so hopefully we could discuss that. And then the student who came and spoke to us, Cody, about possibly looking at the name of our special education program, I think it's worth exploring and appreciate him speaking to us about it.
Does anybody disagree with any of Michelle's proposed agenda items?
Not at all.
People can disagree with what I just...
Well, I have to take a consensus, don't I?
Right.
It's the rule.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we can talk about a plan for how we're going to assess the calendar, if you'd like, in January. We'll be getting ready to do surveys of parents, staff, and students as we're a few weeks into second semester, and then again at the end of the year. And
Maybe that would be part of a workshop or something.
Yeah.
One of the workshops, I don't know.
Yep.
Yes, Debbie?
I went to the III convention, and one of the sessions I went to talked about
it delved into the, I'm trying to remember which policy it is. Of course, it had to do with the policy. The conflict of interest and for board policy and, help me here. I'll think of the word.
Electioneering?
Well, it is what is where electioneering is covered. It's for board members' behavior during elections, et cetera, et cetera. During that meeting, during that session, what came up was the issue of caucuses and seated board members appearing before caucuses and those meetings being held on the grounds of those school districts.
Sorry, just Ali, just.
Oh, is he texting in again?
I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
sorry.
Anyway, that might be misconstrued, that might be interpreted, and this was given by attorneys, that might be interpreted as electioneering. And there were one or two board members that were about to appear before their caucuses that were concerned about that. So my concern was, while possibly our caucuses were still in gear and possibly still together before they break for the next 2 years, that we talk about whether it be to the benefit of any future seated board members that choose to appear before our caucuses, that we have a discussion as a board whether to suggest that they maybe hold their caucus meetings on other in other locations, and we talk about it as a board, that it, just to alleviate any conflicts of interest. And I understand that we have a lot on our plate, but I thought, I thought to do it now before the caucus executive boards break up for the next 2 years. To talk about it now if they want to change their articles of agreement. That, I don't know.
Are you thinking this is a policy discussion?
I don't know if it's a policy discussion or it's a policy discussion for them. Oh, did I hit you? No. But that we should just talk about it. I didn't know if it was a board discussion or something that comes from the superintendents. I don't know who interacts with the caucus, because if the board interacts with the caucus, that's a conflict of interest.
No,
but I don't know if it has to be a discussion of the board.
Yeah.
If we should discuss it, because it was a session where mostly board members were present, because it was the III conference and there were board members that were there. So that's why I didn't know if anybody is concerned, because plus there will be seated board members that choose to go before caucuses. I'm not going to be one of them, but because I'm a process person, I thought if you all wanted, if you're not concerned about it, we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to have that discussion. But there was somebody that was part of one of our neighboring districts that was about to go before to one of his caucus, and he was concerned. So, if you don't care, you don't care. We don't have to talk about it.
Ken, would you like to see this on the agenda?
Might make sense to take it to the policy committee first and find the reference from the conference and take it to a policy.
I don't think, I thought that Debbie, you said that it was something that somebody brought up, but that there wasn't.
As part of our, because it talks about, because it's part of our policy. I mean, they were interpreting, they were saying that we are not allowed to electioneer on our premises, and that doing that could be construed as electioneering on our premises.
I understand, yeah. I just think that's probably a pathway, would be the
Right,
policy committee.
so maybe the policy committee asks
Takes a look
to
at it.
talk about it, right, and then asks to have our policy reviewed by our attorneys from the policy committee.
Well, I did bring it up with our attorneys, and they didn't think it was a problem. So it's fine. If the policy committee wants to discuss it, that's fine, but it's.
It's already been done. I didn't know that.
Nobody is concerned about it, then.
If it's already been resolved, I missed that part.
It was
It's
just a
already been
heated
resolved.
conversation in the room I was in. If this group is not concerned about it, then we move on.
It seems like there would have been years of precedence, because there have frequently been seated board members who came before the caucus in the past.
It was,
correct?
and I've been to the III conference every year since 1996, and this is the first time I have heard about this. So it was brought up, and that's why
I think it would be something maybe that, like, if it came out in press, right, that then we would have to adopt it in our policy. I don't know. I mean, that's just but
Okay.
I did, after you raised it, I did talk to our attorney about it. I didn't make a special call. We were talking about something else, and I said, is this something, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
No, go to closed. I forgot. Sorry. Ali.
See you later. Go to sleep.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was so excited. I forgot about that we have to go back into close. You guys don't. Okay, at this time, it is recommended the board move into closed session to consider information regarding collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, the placement of individuals in special education programs, and other matters relating to individual students. Litigation when an action against affecting or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
A roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We can take a 5-minute break and. Ali.
Ali, take a break.
Oh my God. You're on vacation.
Although we were here at 4:30.
I know, I know, it's so relevant, so, yeah.
How are you? Oh. Is there a new one? Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. All right. The process. Okay. All right.
One of the 12 ones doesn't meet requirements.
Oh. Nope. That's right, you're involved in that one too. You got your hands. I know.
Don't say that it's gonna happen. It's not.
Thanks, yeah. Gene's so
No, actually, it's so funny because I wrote.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good night.
There was no excuse.
Yeah. Thank you.
Rick, does the caucus pay a fee or rent? No. Okay. That was the thing here. Right. Okay. I didn't know. I can't remember how we did it in Trier because they used the school.
We have a number of meetings in stage. This works out real well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think I did.
Oh yeah. Did you fit? I was like.
Technically,
Okay, I was like, I thought they were. Okay. No, okay, but it's good.
Yeah.
because that could be in the paper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
3 seats.